and part of me will always be looking for what I lost.
Well, thanks for doing this. It's very exciting, and I got to say, flat out say, I love the record. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you what it reminds me of, and you can be down if you want. It reminds me of David Bowie's last album, Black Star.
Oh God, I love that album. I mean, that's
something about the way you use the saxophone similarly.
God. Do you know who plays sax on that record? I'm not.
I do know,
sure.
but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But yeah, I'll email you.
I'm curious. I love that record, and that's a huge thank you so much. I love that record. It was, I mean, aside from just the music itself, but just like what a genius he is to write that as he's exiting the world.
That is an incredible way to go, isn't it? I mean,
oh, he's so amazing. Yeah, he's so amazing.
So is that some kind of tuber or thing that you're shaving there in your kitchen?
Oh, it's funny. I'm sorry if it's distracting.
No, that's all right. I'm just
wondering. I usually eat dinner, I usually start cooking dinner around this time. I usually eat right at 6, so I just figured I'd just do some chopping.
Sure, why not? Make the most of the time.
It's so mindless. It's a Dailcon Radish.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen it.
You see it a lot, and if you ever have if you ever go and have sushi and you have sashimi and the white, instead, if you don't get it on rice, but you get the sashimi on this white crunchy stuff,
right?
That's usually Dailcon Radish.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Learning things every day. It's fantastic. Yeah, and so the album just came out, what was it, last week, right?
Yeah, on Friday.
On Friday.
Not very long ago.
Not very long ago. How did it all feel? This is kind of the question I ask everybody these days, because times are being what they are. It's not normal to be releasing an album where you can't go out and promote it and sing and all that stuff.
It's strange to not be able to play a show, because I feel like that's the physical form of the release, is to actually get to play it, and it's out and people can hear it. And I played a very intimate and small Instagram live show, and then I had a little Zoom party with some friends, but it was strange to have it come out. I mean, what I ended up doing was ultimately kind of grieving that day that it came out, because I think there was a lot of heavy stuff that went into making this record, and to finally put it out, I just ended up honestly sobbing a lot of the day, even though I was really happy with how everything turned out and so honored. I mean, I wasn't sobbing tears of grief. I was just sobbing tears of relief, of just feeling okay, I got to the top of this little mountain that I created. And I was just remembering all the things leading up to it that led to that moment. And yeah, it was a weird reaction. I wasn't expecting to feel that way. But it was actually maybe it's just, maybe part of me was just needing to have a physical release, and I couldn't channel it into a show. So I had to just cry in the woods by myself. Yeah, so that's what
material for the next record, no doubt.
Yeah. Oh my God.
My understanding is that the record itself, the recording was done fairly quickly, though, in about a week's time. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, I was just talking to somebody. Someone reached out to me on Twitter to ask me, okay, did you actually do this in a week? And I was breaking it down with them, and I was saying, pretty much. I mean, we did some overdubs afterwards. So the saxophone was recorded after the basics were tracked, and but he was more asking about the lyrics, and I wrote a lot of the lyrics were lines in my phone that I sort of pulled together, and things that I'd scribbled down in a notebook or on crumpled pieces of paper, stuffed in my pocket, like that kind of stuff. I really just pulled it all together before the session in the weeks leading up to the session. And some of the songs were 10% done, some of them were like 90% like done lyrically.
Right.
They were smushed into a document, and then really they had to come together with the music because the music really shaped it. And I wrote a lot of that music with Josh Kaufman,
Oh,
who was the producer on the record. So, it was pretty much done in a week, but there were little pieces. I wasn't like walking into the studio like, let's write a song. It was, hey, I
right.
have these thoughts and these lyrics, and I have this one melody that might work. And it was like a lot of things were in the air, and then we just pulled it all together.
Cool. Now you
So
mentioned bits of lyrics, and are you constantly kind of receiving ideas as far and jotting things down for songs as you go, or do you kind of have to go into a songwriting mode?
I think I was in a songwriting mode, but I didn't realize it. I wasn't in a songwriting mode. I was in like a grieving and traveling and feeling really unmoored mode. And that led me to like, I think when you go through some kind of extreme change, it knocks you into a more psychedelic state.
Right.
Like I've been reading the Michael Pollan book about how to change your mind about psychedelics, and he talks about I think at some point he talks about maybe I'm making this up. He talks about traveling, or just like shaking out of your habitual thought patterns. I think travel has the same effects that something like psilocybin does,
Right.
where it just forces you into a new perspective and to look at your life from a new angle. And all of a sudden I was in this like wide open mental space and just like absorbing everything. Like even when traveling forced me into that headspace, but then even when I got home, I felt like I still had that lens on. So I was just, every conversation I was having with people, it was hitting me really hard in the way that you're almost looking at someone like me in that moment. You're like, are you on drugs? And I'm like, no, I'm just like really, I'm like a really, really hot antenna for
Right.
everything.
Right.
Um, and I think recording voice memos in my phone was just a way of coping, and a way of, it was sort of soothing to kind of like collect everything when I was just feeling so fragmented as a person.
Right.
And it was exciting. And there is this thing that happens too. I think I've lost, I've had other tragic deaths in my life, and like tragic or sudden changes. And I often find that I swing in both directions, from being like grieving to also being like so high on life, because I'm in that space of remembering just how fleeting a lot of our experiences can be, and our own lives can be, and things can change on a dime. And you just get like shocked into that state of remembering that we all have our own experiences of that. And this was just one of those moments in my life. So I wasn't so much in a songwriting place as I was in like a place of just like, wow, I everything's blowing my mind, and I'm just writing it all down.
Right. Now you mentioned psychedelics in passing there. Is that a part of your creative process?
It's definitely not a part of my creative process, but it is something I'm really curious about. I've never like induced a songwriting space or anything with any substances. I often find that I'm a very controlled person, and so I'm like, even if I've taken psychedelics, like it takes a lot for me to give up control for that to actually set in.
Know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I think you have to work with, especially natural substances, you really have to work with them. And like my I think hypervigilance doesn't really want me to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wants me to always be in control and know exactly who is behind me, in front of me, beside me, and like where the exits are, all of that. Like
Yeah.
that's really how my brain works. And so, you know, I think I think my drug in this case was really more of just having like a very limited time frame for recording and just having like a lot of wild things happening in my life.
Yeah,
Um,
that'll do it.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
I know that you have a visual art background as well, and I'm wondering how that translates into what you do musically, and especially, obviously, music videos are a part of what you do now. So,
Yeah.
kind of scratch that itch when you're making music videos.
Visual art is really important to me. Making videos is definitely a way to scratch that itch. I think making videos has been historically really hard for me because, you need a budget and and or people that like really just want to make stuff with you. And I've been lucky to have like a little bit of both this time, or like
Right.
just a willingness to put some of my own I don't know, just to take those risks a little bit more this time. And yeah, I love making visual art, and making videos is sort of a newer form of expression for me. Um, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And like I would love to just I think I'm going to use this time, hopefully, like I'm making a video tomorrow for a live cut of one of my songs. I'm working with my friend Wyndham, who's been doing a lot of the photography for
Uh-huh.
uh
Which
this
song?
whole Um, we might end up doing Haley actually, which
Oh,
is a
okay.
song I really haven't thought that much about. But I'm excited to do. I actually just saw Haley, the woman who the song is about. She just posted on Instagram a picture of the song on her phone, and it says pray for my ego," which is just so. I mean, just like why I wrote a song about her, because she's just so endlessly funny and smart and just cool. So
Right. That's pretty cool.
she should have a million songs written about her.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the video, I just watched your video of Crosshairs, and seeing your
Cool.
vision from outside, it looks like it was shot in the snow. You're walking through the snow, which is right outside your window there. So,
What is it you're looking for in the looking glass? It's in the crosshairs of a stranger's stare. I'm lost at last.
Yeah.
is that what happened?
Yeah. I woke up that morning, and I had been thinking about, it'd be so fun to shoot something with a drone, because
Right.
this is such a special moment in time in New York. And like there is something really micro about that song.
Yep.
And I've always thought of it as being a song of like, you're sort of like walking. It has a lot of meanings, but I've sort of part of it I've envisioned this kind of like, you're walking down the street and you meet eyes with a stranger in New York City, and then you never see them again. That kind of
Right.
like that kind of what's that movie called? It just sliding doors kind of moment. And so I wanted it to be in New York, and luckily, like I'm based there. I'm upstate right now, but
Right.
I'm normally based in New York. And that morning I woke up and I was like, Tim, and I don't have a video for this song, and it's driving me crazy because it's really a creative opportunity and I'm not coming up with anything. And if I could only find a drone operator, and I was like, I'm gonna do this if it kills me. And I
Right.
called my friend Spencer, who's a video artist, and I was like, hey, who do you know that has a drone in this town
There's
and
got to be
has a
somebody.
permit? Yeah, and like it's New York City. There's somebody with a drone, and like and also I'm super COVID anxious because I have a lot of underlying health conditions, and
Right.
I've been extremely isolated, and so I was like, what better way to film than with a drone? Nobody has to be anywhere near each other.
Right.
And sure enough, my friend was like, yeah, I actually know someone that has a permit. Here's their number, call them. And 2 hours later, we were in Central Park shooting with this drone, like tossing ideas around. And
Yeah, I was going to say, just go to Central Park. You'll find drones. I would imagine you find drones everywhere there.
well, they're illegal. So
Oh, I
actually
see.
they're hard to find, because if they are there, they're not supposed to be. So
Gotcha.
But these people have a permit. It's like that's their job
Right,
is
right.
they've made a niche for themselves having a permit in New York City. So um they were great. They were like, I don't think they usually do a lot of music video work. I think it's a lot of like advertising and
Sure.
um more commercial work. And so it was great. They were so funny. The guy Eddie was the guy operating it, and he was like, okay, so let me hear the song. He's from Queens, and I was like, okay.
He's from Queens.
Um, yeah, yeah. And I was like, all right, here's the song I played for him. He's like, okay, cool. It's like ominous and romantic. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure. That sounds great. Ominous and
Why not?
romantic. Let's let's go with that. If you're feeling that, that's I feel it too. And the
Right.
video kind of is sort of ominous and romantic. It's got a kind of
Yeah, yeah.
like zooms around. You see this beautiful sunset, but there's sort of then I'm kind of like a splat, like a pancake at the end of it. Like what happened to Cassandra? Oh, which so it's kind of ominous. Anyway, it was
That's
really
cool.
fun. It was very much like I woke up that morning. I was like, I need a drone. I don't know what we're gonna do with it. And then I was like, okay, what am I gonna wear? And I was like, I'm gonna wear what I wear every day. Okay.
Right.
And what's gonna happen? And I was like, I don't know. What do drones do? What can they do? And then I figured out they could go pretty far. And I was like, okay, could it go away and come back? And he was like, yeah, it's a boomerang. And I was like, okay,
Right.
let's okay, like let's boomerang then, just like really creating stuff that in that flow of just being like, this is a new tool. I don't know what its parameters are. This person does.
Yeah.
How can we make my artistic ideas meet his skills and create something together? And I find so much joy in that. And I've also had plenty of failures. Like I've like tried to do that and then ended up with something that I hated and just
Right.
been like, oh, it's just a lot of work and a lot of stress. So I think I'm getting better at learning how to not control things too much and how to really listen to people
Ah,
um and allow there to be a lot of room for magic to come in. And in
right.
that case, the magic was like this beautiful sunset and pretty much, yeah, just like we
And do you
ended
see
up in
that
that
same thing
spot.
happening in the actual music making as well and songwriting?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm more talking about that. And then it also comes into visual art as well. But
Right.
yeah, with Josh, like Josh Kaufman, the producer, we worked collaboratively. So it was definitely about me coming in and being like, here's the lyrics to this song. And then he'd be like, okay, well, um, I'm working on this loop, this chord loop. Let's see how it works. And then we would try it and be a lot of give and take and trial and error. And then
Right.
I'd come back and it would start to take shape. And then once it started to take shape, I could be like, oh, and you know what? There's a refrain in here somewhere. I'm gonna find it. And then it was like, oh, there it is. Okay, that's the refrain. Um, and sometimes there was no refrain, but like it was definitely a process of like shaving down and adding
Right.
and tossing it around. And one of my favorite phrases that Josh has is he says, if something's not working, he says uh, that really kicks me out. Which is
Yeah.
his way of just saying like it just doesn't feel good.
Right.
And that's just he's just got great instincts and intuition for that stuff.
Cool. Now, the one song that I feel I need to talk to you about is Hard Drive, which is everybody is kind of referring to as the centerpiece of the album. So I'm wondering if you feel that's the case. And you have that spoken thing happening at the beginning, and there's a lot of stuff happening within that.
A security guard stopped me to offer an overview on phenomenal nature. She said sculpture's not just formed from penetration. You see, men have lost touch with the feminine. And with her pink lipstick and her queen's accent, she went on for a while about our president.
When you put this together, did you know what you were going after when you put that track together, or was it kind of making itself as it went along?
No, I mean, this was what I was writing to someone on Twitter about today when they were like, "Did you actually write this all in a week?" And I was like, "Well, a good example is hard drive. I had probably like I pulled all these notes from my phone that were basically stories that I had just written down of people that I had met that week or,
Right.
that month. And and that was the month of September. Um and uh there were a bunch of stanzas that just didn't make it in. But I basically, the way that that track started, do you want me to just kind of go through chronologically how we built it?
Please do.
Um, it's fun for me to reminisce because it really was an example of something coming together in that place, in that way, very much written on the spot. But I had some stuff to pull from to begin with. So I had all these stanzas. Then the ones that I liked the most were the one about the security guard and the guy at the Inn of the Seventh Ray. And I had a couple lines written about the driving instructor,
Right.
a lot of which we edited out, and then I realized it kind of got down to its form where they matched each other in terms of how long they were and how much space they took up in the song. And I realized, okay, there's these like three distinct characters. Okay, we're getting somewhere. And then Josh that morning had pulled up Eric Biondo's Instagram feed, and he's the drummer from Antibellus. And
Okay.
he sometimes just posts some of his practice tracks. Um, and that was one that he had put on that day. And Josh was like, I plugged it into my computer, and I think it's kind of a cool, like, let's start here. This is a
Yep.
nice thing to play around with. And then he's like, and let's play some chords. So he sits down next to the organ. He's playing this sort of loop of chords, and then I just start speaking over it to try to find the pace of the song. Like, where are the words going to fall in with these chords? Are these chords, is this going to work at all? And then we were like, yeah, we can definitely work with this. So by the time we were done that day, we had a beat, the chords, and three verses. um and I went home that day, and just on the subway on the ride home and on the subway on the ride back, I wrote the last verse about the psychic. Because I was just thinking, like, I don't like any of the other ones that I have. Like, I think I want to bring Perry into this because she's a pretty incredible character in my life. She continues to be an incredible character in my life. And then it was on the subway on the way there to the studio the next day that I realized, like, wait, this guy's talking about the hard drive of the mind, and then I'm talking about a driving instructor. Like, there's something and I was like, oh, there's the wordplay. Oh, that's the refrain. Like, I was on the subway, and I remember kind of like laughing to myself, being like, that's kind of corny, but it works. And I just was like, and it's a song now.
Great.
Um,
And did you
and
just get your driver's license?
I did, yeah, a year ago. Well, no, I
Good.
got it. Sorry. Yeah. How old am I? I got it when yeah, I'm 36.
Because it
Yeah.
says
So
you got it when you were 35, but I have no idea how old you are.
yeah, I wrote that. I think I'm 30. I don't remember how old I am. I think I'm turning
It gets worse as
37.
you get older, I'll tell you that.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I just care less and less, I think I'm turning 37 this year.
Okay,
So
go
yeah,
for it.
which makes sense because I recorded that record in 2019. And yeah. So
Okay.
anyway, so the last piece of this was that Josh just had this loop going for a certain amount of time,
Right.
and I had recorded the last verse, and then it kept going, and then I was like, there's all this space. I could repeat like the hard drive thing, and then I realized, like, no, I'm going to repeat what Perry is saying. I'm going to repeat the counting. And it was
Right.
while I was counting that I realized, oh, you know what? I'm just now this medium for Perry's body work that she was doing on me. I'm just passing that on. And I remember feeling that in the studio and being like, that's kind of cool. I wonder if that translates. And then sure enough, I think it does. Like the Sam Sadomsky, I think is his name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the guy who wrote my review in Pitchfork, like, said something that really meant a lot to me, which is just that you feel this transformation in the song where I become the psychic. And and I was like, yeah, that's what happened. And
Right.
I remember feeling that, and that didn't happen until I was in the studio, and I was like, I had all this space and I kind of had to fill it. And then I realized, like, wait, this space is actually a meditation, and let's take it there.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this chorus that comes back. It actually completely changes throughout the song. So it's funny, it's hilarious to me that this song, which you mentioned is like the centerpiece of this album,
Yeah.
it doesn't really have a chorus. It's more than 5 minutes long. It's spoken word, has wailing saxophone throughout, and like noisy audio clips. Just never would have thought that this would be the song that would carry me into this release,
Right.
And
there's something about it, though. You just can't not listen to it over and over again. So
that's cool. I mean, maybe I think that's also the nature of like a loop, which is what it is. It's a loop. It's a drum loop. It's an organ loop, and then Josh's beautiful twinkly guitar. But it's a loop, and I think it has that kind of addictive quality. I personally love. I get addicted to songs where I'll listen to them for days on end. Like
that seems to be happening to me lately.
Yeah, maybe too. Yeah, in this time, like you can really get into these frozen states with things.
Yeah, I've been driving my flatmates crazy. I've been whistling "Abandoned Love" by Bob Dylan everywhere I go, but it's the Everly Brothers version.
Oh, cool. Cool.
And I can't stop.
Are you which harmony? Yeah, are you singing both harmonies? Like when you get tired of one harmony, you sing the next harmony?
Well, it has a very strong melody to it, and it's just ingrained in my brain at the moment. Detriment about everyone around me.
That's cool.
Now, the album, interestingly, you talk about long tracks. The Ramble is 7 minutes long, and it closes out, and it's an instrumental, which kind of interesting. Was that a plan?
No, the plan was actually, I wrote that song because I have throughout the years written these audio guides for friends.
Right.
I wrote an audio guide to the Museum of Natural History, was kind of the one that I worked the most on and actually performed a couple times, where I'm walking you through a space, and I was like, you know what, I can finally like put one of these on a record. Like I'm going to put an audio guide on a record. I was like feeling really excited about that, about being like, I'm going to make my like weird art project into something that's on Spotify now. And then I recorded it, and it was a guitar part and my vocal part. And I walked around the Ramble. I recorded me walking through. You can hear my footsteps, and then I emailed it to a bunch of friends because this was during quarantine. And I said, just record whatever you want on this. Like, don't think about it. And then I took out my guitar part and I took out my vocal. And what was left was the friend recordings.
Right.
Excuse me. And so it's kind of ghosty in that way.
Yeah.
I just felt, and I talked to my label about it. They definitely advised me. They were like, it's beautiful, but like you're making a record. How does that, Cassandra? It's a record. it's music. And I was like, okay, I'll let go, you know. But I've thought about it, and I was like, this makes a lot of sense to take this vocal out. Like, I'd much rather give you in New Zealand a walk through Central Park that you can take in your own mind rather than me telling you where to go. And that is a much better way to leave you on this record that I made. That's very personal, where I'm talking to you about a lot of stuff. I'd rather give you that space to like meander around Central Park on your own and give you that soundscape to walk through it. And
Gotcha.
I really thought about like people on the other end of the world, and I was like, oh, if anyone else hears this, let's give them that experience without me being like, and then go here and then go there. It's like
Right.
kind of like what I was saying earlier, like trying not to control everything so much.
Right. Well, thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
Have you ever been down to this part of the world?
I've been to Australia. I've never been
It's
to New
close.
Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's obviously, I know I think a lot of people like from this part of the world might like lob them together, and that's a huge mistake. It's more just, but the fact that it's that far and I've made it that close,
It's
counts
impressive.
for something.
It sure does.
I really did want to go traveling to like other parts. Like I would have loved, I tried to figure out how to go to New Zealand like on my way home, but I was on tour with a band called Uncle Earl, which was is an all-female bluegrass band.
Okay.
And I was asked to step in for the banjo player, who's a woman named Abigail Washburn. I think she had just gotten married or was like just about to have kids or something, and then she didn't want to do this tour, so I stepped in.
You play the banjo?
I do, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I usually keep it a secret, but I'm being more open about it recently. Yeah, I played the banjo exclusively for years, and then I got really sick of being so specific in my engagement with music. It just started to feel really suffocating to me. That I was like, I'm doing this to myself. and then I like really, I was like, I put the banjo away and I just like really didn't play it for a long time. I had that kind of a relationship with it. I think I had also gone through a breakup with like a bluegrass musician, and I was just like, I need some
out of here
from all y'all right now.
Fair enough.
And yeah, so I went hard in the other direction, and now I'm just I'm letting it creep back in. The banjo is a beautiful instrument. It's got a lot of very specific applications, and I at one point in my life was happy to oblige those applications.
Fair enough. Well, I'm glad you snuck the saxophone in on this one, because it complements everything else that you're doing very nicely, and sets a beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah,
we'll see if the banjo does the same thing next time around.
Yeah. Well, actually, the banjo is on this record. It's so in Haley, that's actually bowed banjo. You can hear those kind of like ghosty, like metallic sounds.
Haley, Haley.
That's actually Josh bowing his banjo.
Okay, very cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for telling me all of this. It's fantastic. I've been enjoying the record all week, and now I can enjoy it even more.
Cool, good. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about it a lot. It's fun to look back on that time in my life. It's so different. You know, I was doing so much in a given day, and now I'm like, all right, it's a big day. I'm going to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, well, we're all going through that. Right? No, it's crazy. At least I'm going to go out to a show tonight, so that's good.
Are you really?
Oh, yeah. We're kind of COVID-free mostly here. We have days where we get, somebody discovers one isolated incident, and we all kind of lock down for a couple of days, and it kind of dissipates, and then we're back out again.
That's wild. I'm getting vaccinated on Friday.
Good on you. Go for it.
So I'm excited about that.
I believe the vaccines just arrived in New Zealand, so they're giving it to the people who need it most first, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm sure we'll all get nailed one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there you go. All righty. Well, did you get all your peeling done?
I did. I mean, check it out. I've made good use of the time.
Fantastic.
I got all these like very well organized chopped veggies and parsley. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, it's just about lunchtime for me, so I'm going to go make some lunch.
Great. Well, enjoy. I'm making
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you.
Okay, take care.
Virtually.
Yeah, you too. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.